What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Basketball This Week, presented by District of Buckets. If you won your last week, make sure to comment down below GG's Easy Dubs every week. Every week we're getting dubs out here. If you lost your week, make sure to stay tuned because we got a lot of information that's going to help you out this week. Before we get into the action, make sure you're liking, subscribing, commenting anything basketball related. We love to talk to our people, but let's get right into it.
Let's go.
Once again, welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Basketball This Week, presented by District of Buckets. We are your head fantasy basketball analysts. I'm Tyler Castle. I got my boy Carl with me. What's going on, Carl?
How's it going? Let's get it going.
Let's get it going, man. We got a lot of stuff to talk about this coming week with the All-Star break. A lot of sneaky pickups you can do in the waiver wire. A lot of buy low, sell highs you can do with some injuries. But before we get into waiver wire pickups, before we get into buy low, sell high, we got to get into the nitty-gritty of how you can win your fantasy basketball week this week. And that's by having the best strength of schedule. Strength of schedule is something that can make or break your team. And we're going to show you how to break that algorithm. It's not really an algorithm, but we're going to show you how to beat the game, really. And one of the main things you want to do whenever you're trying to figure out your strength of schedule is picking up back-to-backs, and that's going to maximize your matchup acquisitions. So starting out the week, Monday, Tuesday, your back-to-backs are the Denver Nuggets and San Antonio Spurs. Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-backs, you got Atlanta and you got the Los Angeles Lakers. Wednesday, Thursday, Golden State Warriors, Indiana Pacers, New Orleans Pelicans, OKC, Portland, and Sacramento. And then this is where the week gets a little weird because we have the All-Star break. So you're going to take the 2 weeks and you're going to combine them. And so that's going to end up in one extra day for your team. So from this Thursday to the following Wednesday, the back-to-backs are Boston, Memphis, San Antonio again, and Washington. Wednesday, Thursday, you got one back-to-back, and that's Dallas. And that's going to be a really important one to try and pick up somebody in. Thursday, Friday, you have Chicago, Houston, Miami, New Orleans, Orlando, and Philadelphia. Friday to Saturday, you have Denver, Indiana, and Washington once more. Saturday and Sunday, you have a bunch of back-to-backs. You got Atlanta, Orlando, OKC, Toronto, Portland, and Minnesota. And then going into the next week, your Sunday to Monday back-to-backs, which is going to help you start off the week in a good spot. You have Golden State again, Los Angeles Clippers, Memphis, and the Spurs for a third time. So the Spurs are going to be a very important team to pick up from this week, and there's a lot of good options coming from the Spurs. And we're gonna get into it right now with the waiver wire pickups. So starting off on that Monday, Tuesday, this coming Monday, Tuesday, got the Nuggets. The person I'm looking at for the Nuggets is Monte Morris. Monte Morris has had a pretty good year for the Nuggets, especially with Jamal Murray. He's like one of the lowest shooting three-point shooters on the team right now, which is pretty crazy. The Nuggets have a ton of people shooting the three ball very, very well. But Monte Morris is one of those people. He's a guy that you could probably look at to add for your Monday, Tuesday back-to-back. Moving on to the Spurs for that Monday, Tuesday back-to-back. There's a lot of options, but the main one, and I've preached his name for a long time, Jacob. Not only have I preached his name, but I've butchered his name. You got Jacob Hurdle is what I always refer to him as. Carl, what is it?
I don't know. Is it Pirtle? I don't know.
I mean, Poeltl. You're missing a vowel in there, guy. Anyways, Jacob is the main guy you're looking at from San Antonio. Some other options you could look at are Lonnie Walker and Patty Mills. They could be good options, especially in deeper leagues. You got anything to add about Monte Morris, Jacob, Lonnie, or Patty?
Yeah. I really don't have too much to add on those guys. I like Monte Morris, I'd say.
Yeah.
But that's just individually as a player. And if he's a guy that in that team, he'll get a lot of opportunity if he's playing. So that's why he's my personal favorite of those first three guys.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll move on to the Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-backs. People you're going to want to pick up are Kevin Huerter Huerter from the Atlanta Hawks, and Tony Snell as well in really deep leagues. That's because Cam Reddish is currently sidelined. And then for the Lakers, you got a couple options. You got Kuzma, future MVP, Marc Gasol in the absence of Anthony Davis, who might not be returning for still some time. And then THT, Taylor Horton-Tucker, in deeper leagues. He had one start actually this week. He didn't perform as well as when he does coming off the bench, but still a solid option for your waiver wire ads. All right, moving into Wednesday, Thursday. You got the ideal team to pick up from is the Indiana Pacers. They have a ton of people on their team that are owned in less than 50% of leagues and consistently average like 22 to 28 points per game. Just guys that can bring you 50-something points with a back-to-back, and that's just one matchup acquisition. So the guys that we're looking at, the number one guy specifically, TJ McConnell. TJ McConnell is playing he's playing exceptional. He's been playing exceptionally all year, but Brogdon is currently out, and TJ McConnell has taken over that starting spot. And the first game that Brogdon did sit out of this season, McConnell came out and he's had 51 fantasy points. So definitely a guy you're going to want to look at. And then there's all the other options. There's McDermott, there's Holiday, there's Jeremy Lamb. All solid pickup options for the Indiana Pacers. And then for the Oklahoma City Thunder, you have Isaiah Roby. Isaiah Roby will start in place of Al Horford in one of those back-to-backs, old man Al. So Isaiah Roby, he could be one of the good options, and he had a really, really good game in his last outing. Although he did have 6 turnovers. So if you're in a category league, might not be a guy that you want. And then, as always, we mention these guys every week for Portland. Derrick Jones Jr., Gary Trent Jr. Gary Trent Jr. actually got dropped by 10% of leagues in the last week, probably because CJ McCollum's impending return. But that's still not for a while, so don't sleep on Gary Trent Jr. just yet. CJ McCollum definitely won't be back until after the All-Star break. Derrick Jones Jr. has been absolutely balling out. Absolutely balling for Portland, and not owned in a lot of leagues. I think it's like 22% of leagues or something like that.
Way too low.
All right. Now for the weird back-to-back, the Thursday to Wednesday back-to-back. You got Lob Williams of the Boston Celtics. Robert Williams III. If they would just play the man, as a Celtics fan, if you would play Robert Williams, that dude is 100 fantasy point averaging every night because he puts up 50 in 20 minutes. So if he just had the playing time, he'd be great, especially in categories leagues. Phenomenal blocks guy, phenomenal field goal percentage, just incredibly efficient. It's just a matter of if he's going to get playing time or not.
He kind of reminds me of like a young Clippers DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah.
They went to the same school too, so
yeah. If you're in the category league in need of blocks, in need of field goal efficiency, field goal percentage, definitely look at Robert Williams. Hopefully Brad Stevens will start feeling the heat and start playing him a little more. For deeper leagues, you're looking at the Grizzlies. We got Tyus Jones. And then once again, you got the Spurs guys playing another back-to-back. Jacob, Monty, Patty Mills. And then we have one guy that you should consider on the Washington Wizards. Only one. Sorry, Carl. Not a lot of Wizards players we're picking up this week. We got Bertans.
It's still a dice roll. Just letting you guys know that. That's not a dice roll.
An absolute dice roll. He's also he's sitting a little bit with right knee soreness at the moment. When he's on, he's on. But when he's off, he's really off.
And he's been playing pretty well as of late. But he had, like, even the last game against the Nuggets game, where he had that was the Wolves yesterday, where like he had, I think it was like 3 or 4 threes in a quarter, and then just everything else was just bricks, like building houses. So it's if you're not gonna watch it and you're willing to put up with that, like, go ahead. Get him. But if you're someone who likes to watch your players play, you're going to be scared watching them play.
Yeah, definitely. Probably a guy that you should only consider in deeper leagues because of those other options that are available that day. Moving into the Wednesday, Thursday back-to-backs, the Mavericks, the only team with a back-to-back. We got Jalen Brunson. We got Dorian Finney-Smith for deeper leagues. You got a couple of those guards for the Dallas Mavericks that are seeing quite a bit of playing time. But they're spreading it thin. They spread it around. And so I don't know necessarily if those are guys that you're going to want to pick up. If you're just in a 10-team league, you might want to save that matchup acquisition and use it on a different day, because if you're in an ESPN Standard League, you only get 7 matchup acquisitions, and there's going to be 8 days this week due to the All-Star break, combining other 2 weeks. So not sure if you necessarily want to use one of your matchup acquisitions there, especially with some of the picks that we got coming up that might be coming back from injury that you're going to want to consider holding and monitoring for your team. All right, going into the Thursday, Friday back-to-backs. We got a couple of guys that we're going to want to look at. One of the main ones, only owned in 45% of leagues right now. It's been out for a long time. Goran Dragich. I know Carl's been monitoring him. Kendrick Nunn was his replacement, and he definitely, when Goran Dragich plays, Kendrick Nunn's performance, I mean, he's still a good player. His fantasy performance isn't there.
Yeah.
So Goran Dragich is an obvious pickup for one of those days. Might even consider grabbing him.
Yeah, I have him
earlier.
I have him later in the show. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about him more later. And then another guy that we mentioned feels like every week, Shawn Tate. Still playing a ton of minutes. He had a bad game last game, but he's one of the guys on the Rockets that's playing a ton of minutes, especially with Wall and Oladipo, switching off, sitting back-to-backs. Definitely a guy you're going to want to have on your team. A lot of fantasy basketball is just opportunity, and Shawn Tate has a ton of opportunity. And then lastly, another guy that I'm looking at on that day is a guy we all love to see miss his three-point shots, but has been playing pretty well recently, Danny Green. Danny Green, welcome to the show, man. It's the first time we're going to mention you.
Yeah.
It might be the last. And then next day, let's see, what day is this? We got Friday, Saturday back-to-backs. We're looking at the man. Oh my God, bro. Jeez. It's the weather.
It's the weather.
We got Facundo Campazzo. The man, the myth, bro. If you haven't looked up Facundo Campazzo's highlights from his EuroLeague, bro, absolute killer.
They're fun.
Yeah, he's like the closest thing to an ISO player that EuroLeagues can get. He's a baller, but he's also a dimer. So keep on the lookout for him, especially in deeper leagues. And then once again, Indiana Pacers guys, the plethora of guys you can draw from the Indiana Pacers. You got McConnell, McDermott, Holiday, and Lamb. Not Aaron Holiday, Justin Holiday. Saturday, Sunday, last pickup of the week before the Sunday to Monday transfer. We got Kevin Huerter again, Tony Snell, Isaiah Roby once more with another back-to-back from Al Horford sitting one of those back-to-backs. Isaiah Roby will get the start. Derrick Jones Jr., Gary Trent Jr., same guys as before. And then on the Timberwolves, you're looking at Naz Reid and Jared Vanderbilt. And I know, Carl, you wanted to touch on Naz Reid a bit.
Yeah. Basically, it's because of his opportunity in Minnesota. His minutes are basically getting cut now that Karl-Anthony Towns is back, but he has a solidified role in that second unit, and he's playing generally pretty efficiently. Just his time is being used really well there. So I still think he's worth it, even though he's not going to show that upside that he showed when Cat was out, unless Cat sits again. So I think you should have him. I think someone should have him just in case. That he's playable. I would play him if you need him, but also he's a guy that I would try to keep around on my roster just in case something pops up with Cat again.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Is even if you don't have Cat on your team, monitoring Cat can be very beneficial for you because Naz Reid has been a starter before and he knows what it's like to play those big minutes, and he performed very well during those big minutes. And then Jared Vanderbilt is likely going to see an increase in opportunity now that Malik Beasley is suspended for 12 games. So definitely a guy that you should keep an eye out for. And then going into Sunday, Monday, got Tyus Jones in deeper leagues, and then Spurs again, Jacob. And then maybe Derrick White will be back by then. He'll be back from COVID protocols. And he's a guy that a lot of people have been very high on before the season, and we're looking to see him do really well. So if you're willing to take that risk, if you're a team that can afford to take that risk, look for White as they go into that Sunday, Monday back-to-back. And then once again, deeper leagues, Lonnie Walker and Patty Mills. That's going to wrap up our waiver wire, guys. We hope that was really helpful, but you guys don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. We still got buy low, sell high.
I have some waiver wire specific guys that we haven't even touched on yet.
So those are waiver wire specific guys for back-to-backs.
Back-to-backs, good. Yeah.
So these are waiver wire guys that you should be looking out regardless of their
So this is regardless of back-to-backs or anything. I have my usual 2 or 3, starting off with the Miami Heat and Goran Dragic, as we mentioned earlier. So he's only owned in 47.4% of leagues, which makes sense because he's been out dealing with a lot. His last game, he played 33 minutes and had 44 fantasy points. So like the Heat, to get to whatever level they want to, which is hopefully to try to compete in the Eastern Conference and get back to the championship and defend their crown in the East. He's honestly probably one of the most important pieces on that team, and he helps drive them offensively, and there's so much production that comes out of that on his end, and you want a piece of that if you can go grab Goran Dragic. If you're in a league where he's not owned, which is almost half of them, at least according to ESPN statistics, you should go out and try to get Goran Dragic. Just my first waiver wire selection of the day. With 2, shout out Silvo Friends High School, Washington, D.C., Josh Hart. Josh Hart is a guy that's doing pretty impressive things despite having a different role than I think I expected him to. So he's playing 28.4 minutes per game. And he's had pretty impressive rebounding numbers. Like he's averaging 7.4 rebounds per game at like that wing spot that he plays down there. And he's only owned in 22.2% of leagues. And he's a guy that has shown that he has a consistent role and plays a lot. And then he has a pretty good floor when it comes to rebounding and doing a lot of the other things on the court, that when he does have those scoring games, it takes him to a nice level of, has a nice output for fantasy. So he's a guy that I would definitely try to pick up if you have the space to keep him on your roster. And then a guy that we mentioned earlier, among those Mavs guards, Jalen Brunson. Out of everyone who's not named Luka, it's a guard, I think Jalen Brunson is the guy you want to put on your team and potentially stay, because he's been generally more consistent. He's got a more consistent game, in my opinion, than a lot of the other guys that they have on that roster. So he's someone that I would pick up to at least maybe keep on my bench if you're that type of person who doesn't necessarily either have the time or you want to really make those daily acquisitions. Like those are a couple guys that I would say I would pick up and keep right now on my team.
Yeah, those are definitely guys to keep an eye out on, especially like Jalen Brunson in deeper leagues, who's available in a lot of those leagues, is a guy that could be an up-and-comer. Definitely a guy you should look out with. Goran Dragich is an obvious waiver wire guy. Like the Heat offense functions so much better with him in there. He might, the stats don't always show it, but the way he plays makes him like the centerpiece of the Heat offense. And honestly, he's great with steals too. So a good guy for category and points leagues. And then Josh Hart, 6'4" guard, averaging 7 rebounds a game, you said?
Yeah, 7.4 boards.
Off the bench. So, yeah, definitely guys you should be keeping a lookout for. That wraps up our waiver wire segment. And now we're going to move into buy low, sell high some of the guys that we are looking at. You want me to start, or you want to start, Carl?
I've already started talking. Let me just get mine out of the way first.
Get it going.
Yeah, so I actually have kind of 4 tiers here today instead of just buy low, sell high. I have a buy low, a definite stash target, someone I want you to monitor, and then someone I think you should sell high on. So starting off with buy low, sticking with my trend of the Miami Heat is actually Tyler Hero. So buy low mostly because of the way the perception of his name right now kind of is amongst the basketball community, at least fans. Because we saw like his talent last year, and then it's kind of he's had a pretty down year in a lot of different facets, but also there's been COVID, and there's been injury. He's been dealing with injury recently, so you may want to be able. He's someone I think you could probably either if someone's still holding him on the roster, they're probably pretty upset at what they're getting out of Tyler Hero right now, just because you're not seeing the points if you're not playing, and that's a good person to grab because when he does play, he's been playing 33.2 minutes per game, and also along with the Heat getting back to full strength, Dragich and all those other guys getting back together in that type of chemistry, we're going to see them, I think, in the second half of the season, as they've already started to turn it around, start to look closer to that type of team that went to the finals last year. I don't think it's going to be quite the same for them, but that's another story for another podcast another day. But I think Tyler Hero is going to ride that upward trend as all those guys start finally, getting together and playing well with one another, because we've seen teams who've gone through a bunch of COVID protocols and injuries now slowly start to get together, i.e. the Washington Wizards, who are a team who also had COVID hit them hard. It took them a little bit of time to gel, and I think that's what's going to happen with the Miami Heat. So Tyler Hero is my buy now for this week, just because of the upside that he has when the Heat are at full strength. Next, I have the injury stash target, Marcus Smart. And me and Tyler have had these conversations that it seems like Marcus Smart really is the glue to the Boston Celtics. That's honestly, that's the best piece of advice I can give you. Say that he's worth a stash, that he does everything for them.
Yeah, I've personally been stashing Marcus Smart. I drafted him. And as a Celtics fan, you can clearly see how much worse they are without Marcus Smart. He is the primary defender for the Celtics. And when Kemba's struggling, which he has been, Marcus Smart is the point guard. He's not afraid to take over when it is necessary. And to keep this going, last season, there was no other duo responsible for more assists to another player than Marcus Smart and Jalen Brown. And you've seen how much Jalen Brown has improved this year. Marcus Smart is just going to continue to add to that. And then obviously he's going to rack up the assists because of that. Marcus Smart is one of the most underrated players, as he's hated by a lot of teams for the way he plays defense. But regardless of any of that, he makes the Boston Celtics better. And then while doing that, he receives more opportunity to chuck up shots, to pass to 2 all-stars, Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, who continue to improve their offensive game. So I 100% agree with stashing Marcus Smart if you can.
Yep. 100% stash Marcus Smart. And then I have player I think you should really monitor their usage. That's Derrick Rose right now. So a lot of Derrick Rose's usage with the New York Knicks has changed, mostly because we have an injured Elfrid Payton. And so I don't really quite know what Thibs is doing with IQ and all those other guards on that team. But Derrick Rose has seen a giant uptick in minutes. He's still got game. I don't even know why it's even a question at this point. So I think that he's a guy that you want to see if those minutes are going to stay up. And if those minutes stay up, he might be worth making a move in the second half of the season, as this Knicks team is actually trying to win games and be competitive in the Eastern Conference, which is something I can't believe I'm saying in 2021. But he's a guy that I would 100% watch list. Really, you're looking at those minutes he's playing, because if those minutes stay consistent, and it's a good example of how maybe he's getting acclimated to the team now, and now that's the role that Thibodeau wants him to play, is playing these types of minutes that he has. Eventually, he'd be a guy I'd say maybe go grab, but you don't really want to do that too soon. But he's a guy you want to watch. And then lastly, my sell high candidate is Dante DiVincenzo for the Milwaukee Bucks, and that's for a very simple reason, and that's Drew Holiday's coming back. DiVincenzo is still going to be valuable in spurts, but it's just, again, opportunity in minutes. He's going to lose a lot when you have an all-star caliber guard come back in your lineup, and that's basically all I had for buy low, sell high this week.
Yeah, Drew Holiday is going to take away a lot of that opportunity because as he's been out for 11 games now, I think it has been 10 or 11 games, and the Bucks do not play nearly as well without him, and that's going to continue to show once he comes back. They're going to start winning more basketball games again.
Yep.
And because of that, he'll continue to get opportunity. He's a great steals guy, and he could be a buy low candidate. As DiVincenzo's a sell high, Drew Holiday could be a buy low candidate. My buy low and sell highs also revolve around injury. So my first sell high candidate, Neas Cancer. Nurkic is going to be coming back eventually after the All-Star break, and Cancer is most likely going to turn into a waiver wire guy due to lack of opportunity, lack of minutes. I like Cancer. He can't play defense, but he puts up some solid fantasy production whenever he's on the court. He just won't be on the court anymore. So if you have the opportunity to sell Cancer high, definitely do it. Don't wait until Nurkic comes back and then he just becomes a waiver wire guy and you get nothing in return for him. Try and at least get something out of him. My buy low candidates, sticking with the Trailblazers. You have CJ McCollum and Nurkic, both buy low candidates. McCollum and Nurkic are set to come back after the All-Star break, maybe not immediately after the All-Star break, but sometime in March most likely. And these guys are top 50 guys from the projections. ESPN had them projected in standard leagues. CJ McCollum was supposed to average 35 per game, and Nurkic was supposed to average 40 per game. That clearly puts them top 50, Nurkic even in the top 25. I need to look at how many leagues they're owned in. McCollum he's rostered in 96% of leagues. So obviously people have held on to him. They know his worth. But Nurkic is he's only owned in 46% of leagues. And he was projected to average 40 fantasy points per game. Excellent rebound candidate. Excellent field goal percentage candidate. Excellent block candidate. Steals candidate. He's going to be a guy that's going to really help out the Portland Trailblazers. And he's a waiver wire guy right now, owned in less than 50% of the leagues. So if he's still available in your league and you have the ability to take on that risk and take on that extra guy sitting out until he comes back, Nurkic is your guy. If you're looking for a shooting guard that can rain down threes, can be the perfect complement to Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum. People might have forgotten his worth by now. Don't miss out on that opportunity. CJ McCollum is phenomenal for the Portland Trailblazers, and he should be treated like so. And you should be offering things to get CJ McCollum before it's too late and he does start raining threes. And you're like, damn, I just missed out on a buy low candidate that could help me win in the playoffs, that could take me to the championship game. So those are my two buy low candidates, both on the Trailblazers. Both could significantly help your team, and both are set to come back in sometime in March after the All-Star break. Carl, you got any shout outs you want to give?
Shout out, honestly, sticking back with the I have a real Heat theme this week, but shout out to Jimmy Buckets, just because he fought through COVID, looked like he lost a bunch of weight through COVID, and now he's returning back to that form. One of my personal favorite players. Timberwolves fans hate him. Sorry for bringing him up. I know I have a couple Timberwolves fans that watch this, but just wanted to shout out Jimmy Buckets. Shout out all you guys who watch our videos. We've made some big strides in the past couple weeks. The blog's been doing pretty well. Everything's going all right, good direction. So shout out to you guys.
Yeah. We can't express that enough. Thank you guys for everything. For all the people that watch the video and don't like the video, we got like 600 views on our last video and only 15 likes. Help us out here. Come on, boost us up in the algorithm. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you aren't already. I mean, we're growing every week by like 30 or 40 subscribers. Like it's great. It's great. We're trying to grow the channel even more so that way we can do even more for you. We can put out tons of different content. I know we do like the podcast and then we do the segmented podcast for people that don't want to watch the full thing. If we start making money off this, we start getting our opportunity for fantasy terms, we can produce for you guys and we can put out more than one original piece a week. So shout out to all you guys that have watched. Shout out to everybody that stays all the way through the video. It helps out in the algorithm a ton. We look forward to continue doing this. I don't know if we'll put out a video this coming Sunday just because of the All-Star break, but we will see you guys soon. Thank you for watching. This has been another episode of Fantasy Basketball This Week, presented by District of Buckets. We're your head fantasy basketball analysts. Peace.
Peace.